give praise to God that we woke up today. And if we remind ourselves, then it feels simple. But if we don't remind ourselves and we lose touch with our faith, we lose touch with our creativity, we lose touch with our individuality. And I think bullying is kind of like a consequence of society if you want to be anything that's different than the crowd. And if you're an anomaly, meaning that the individuality to you is more important than fitting in, that's going to draw a lot of animosity.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to Standing Strong with Waylon and Ashley.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Standing Strong. We hope you enjoy Tyler Peter's episode, and now this is the 73rd episode. What's up, Ashley?
Not much, Waylon. What's going on with you? And wow, 73 episodes already.
Right, Ashley, that's crazy just to think about it. And our guest for 73 is Austin Siar, aka Ace Hyer. How awesome is this episode gonna be?
I think it's going to be pretty sweet, Waylon. I think Austin is a one of a kind guy with a lot of creativity and new ideas that he's bringing out and creating. So let's get this show going and see how he does.
And at this time, I'm gonna give it over to Ashley so she can do our next review of the week.
This week's review of the week is brought to you by none other than Amanda Barker. She is Jeremiah Barker's wife, and Jeremiah was on our podcast not that long ago. Amanda says with her review, great show with interesting topics and a variety of guests. Thank you, Amanda. We appreciate that.
Wow, Ashley, what an amazing review by Amanda. If you would like to be featured on an episode of Standing Strong with your review, please leave us a review on our Facebook page or standingstrongpodcast.com in the review section. Wow, Ashley, these reviews that we have been getting is mind blown. What do you have to say about all the reviews we've been getting?
There's a lot of positivity and a lot of great constructive criticism that we take dearly and are working on making more improvements. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, 100%. Well said, Ashley. So yeah, Ashley, we are gonna get started with Austin Siar. This is gonna be an inspirational episode, isn't it?
Yes, it will be.
Are you ready, Ashley?
Yes, Waylon, are you ready?
I am ready. All right, everyone. Sit back, get your popcorn and drinks ready, and enjoy Austin Siar episode of Standing Strong. Here is Steve Fox with his introduction.
Austin Siar, best known as Ace Hyer of Daydreamers Entertainment, born in 1995 in rural Pennsylvania, Ace has moved a lot in his life. From Dallas, Texas to Los Angeles, California, he has taken on many different roles in life, including a husband, a father, a musician, as well as a business owner, among many other entrepreneurial pursuits. He not only composes and produces all original content, including musical compositions, as well as plant identification knowledge and mushroom identification. Ace is a creator who has overcome bullying and oppression by choosing to be a positive light in his own life, as well as the life of many others through sharing positivity and optimism through his social media platforms. Austin, aka Ace, is a versatile performer, and his first show being the stage at Club Karma, which was his first real crowd with about 300 people. Ace is an avid creator, fueled by an optimistic attitude and a deep desire to leave the world a better place than it was before he arrived. Now introducing the man of the hour, Austin Siar, aka Ace Hyer. And now, lights, cameras, and action, as it's Waylon and Ashley's pleasure to welcome Austin Siar, aka Ace Hyer, as their 73rd guest on Standing Strong. Enjoy this firing episode, as you definitely do not want to miss it.
Wow, Steve. Thank you so much for that incredible introduction of Austin Sire, aka Ace Hyer. And at this time, everyone, please welcome Austin.
Yay.
Yeah. How you been, Austin?
Very, very grateful. Very grateful to be here with you guys, man. And thank you again, Steve, for going and taking the time to give us all the opportunity to have these really awesome intros. That's something I've really noticed. And I love, first off, right off about the show, man. I love the energy. I love being here. I love that so many different unique collaborators have shown up here. And I think that this place is awesome. So I'm just very grateful for the opportunity to be on the podcast. So thank you, Standing Strong. And thank you guys for welcoming me and giving me the opportunity for the warm welcome.
You're welcome, absolutely. All right, Austin, at this time, can you give people a little bit more about yourself with your music production, your video creation, and how it means to you to do all of that?
Absolutely. So just a quick introduction. My name is Austin Siar. As a creator that I am, I'm known as Ace Hyer, and I've been making music now for almost a couple decades. So really starting off, it was just getting into the rhythm and hearing music so much. It's really been so integral with life, especially just growing up and being moved around a lot. Music has always had a very close place in my heart with every different style. I love the many different flavors of music there are out there. So that inspired me really early to just go for it. And I never really had a lot of instruments growing up. However, I did get into drums in middle school. So that was my real introduction to playing instruments. And then throughout time from middle school, until now, I've just been progressively learning more, about learning how to produce the music and make the music and combining them all together. So at this point, we're on YouTube, pretty much all of the social media platforms. And really, it's just been learning little bits of creation, learning how to put things together, and, just really trusting God through the process of everything that's been going on. So without him, I don't know if I would have ever been able to continue being a creator in some of the events that have happened in my life. However, God has been consistently the beat of my life and in my music, even more so now than ever. And I'm really grateful for that. So music production is so important to me, and it's so vastly important to all of us. And when we realize that, we can work together, we create such a really awesome, mural of all of our creative characters coming together. And music adds like that storyline that when you listen to when you watch a movie, you might hear a certain song playing. And that's kind of the feeling whenever I see the show and I see all these awesome people coming on, is that there's this style, there's this sound, and it all works together in this harmonious effort. So I love the music questions right off the bat. I love to create with my phone, with my computer, just going outside and building stuff, and music works with all of that.
Now, what are the struggles you've experienced when making music?
Oh, that's a great question. Absolutely. I'd say definitely one of the most difficult struggles, I think, having music is just being able to have the tools to produce. And that can be many different things. If we're coming from different conversations, there's been times that I wasn't necessarily confident enough to really create the song. And then it got later to the point where I gained a little more confidence in creating it. But then I had to figure out how to store it and how to send it from one place to another. So space is absolutely an important factor in music production and making it flow smoothly. So that's been a big thing for me, is just overcoming, technological issues. Maybe even having these issues has honestly taught me how to improvise and kind of overcome these objections by finding different ways that I didn't know that were possible, and not limiting myself by saying it has to be done this exact way. Even though I got
Right.
used to that kind of a formula, I now kind of improvise on different formulas, because now music has kind of opened the doorway to different kinds of platforming, and using music in different types of productions has been so essential to me now, because I'm getting also into a lot more producing, visuals and stuff like that as well. So
Mhm.
even though I'm still learning, still overcoming those kind of objections to, these obstacles, I look at them from the completed point of mind, where I say, maybe instead of looking at it like a problem, I'm a lot closer to the solution whenever I just think about it a little differently. So I have to kind of reframe my mind. But really, the musician's mind going through the creative process, that can be a very difficult thing to overcome too, because we're
Yeah.
all very critical. When we make things, we want people to love it. At the same time, we have to love ourselves when we're going through those hard times and the struggles of things that we make, that they may sound kind of sad or they may feel a kind of energy, but we have to find a way to create something from those types of things that we've overcome in our battles, and make something positive out of them in return.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. Now,
Yep.
what advice would you give someone out there who wants to make music and want to be known for their music?
Absolutely. That's a great question to ask. I think anybody that wants to make music has a lot more skills than they may be willing to admit. And that's the biggest part, is kind of getting out of our own head enough to look at what we have and say, why don't we opportunize this? Instead of making it what we lack, we can look at something and say, well, I have some sticks and some big, plastic 50-gallon drums or something laying around my house. Maybe I have a glass jar with some rice in it. That's a shaker. We have to be able to kind of improvise and adapt on the instant. And anybody that wants to make music, as long as it's from your heart, as long as it's intentional when you create it and it means something really deep and emotional to you, it will come off a lot more beautiful than I think a lot of creators give themselves that kind of credit for. So just getting started and staying out of your head is the biggest thing, because early on is not easy without a lot of support. Maybe it's coming from the collective of people you work with or want to work with. Maybe that's maybe that's difficult for somebody trying to find collaborators if they're from, a smaller area and there's not as much access to the arts in that area. It can be kind of discouraging, but really finding good supporters and continually supporting each other in the things that we produce is so important. And reaching out to people that inspire you to create is really important too. And
Absolutely.
that's like a keynote, because a lot of these creators that are really successful, they started with the same mentality of like, well, maybe if I had this, I could do better. But then they kind of have this certain point where they quit this ideal excuse making to like have this ideal situation, when the best music comes from not having the proper tools all the time, kind of having to battle with uploading things on time, because that really makes somebody pull a lot more out of themselves as a creator than somebody that's got all of these limitless tools that can do anything that they want right now. We can still create that instance even without that tool. And when we communicate with the right way, we can still get that great music out to the world, even if it's not the way we once thought it was. So
Yeah.
if you're making it, that's what's important. Sharing it's very important. It's the feeling, though, when you make the music that matters the most, because that's the power of music, is that the world that we desire can be created from the music that we make.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yep, 100%. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, how do you manage the negativity that you might receive in comments? What advice would you give someone out there who is like, wait a second, I worked so hard on this song and I'm getting a lot of negativity on it. How would you suggest someone to not pay attention to the negative comments?
That's important, to really sit down as an individual and look around. And if you've got a lot of support, it doesn't necessarily make it any different than somebody who is their own individual support. Because if our group is as good as we think we are, that helps our group become more strong. When we're building each other up and we're really collaborating together and doing things that involve each other on the level of, well, I can create this and show you what I do, and now you have that skill for yourself, that's so important. And we kind of lose, kind of like get tunnel vision, I would say, when we start seeing negative comments and things like that start coming in. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to go negative, because it's a policy that I've kind of created for myself, looking at all of the comments and things that have happened, because it's not just happened online, it's happened personally, and seeing people in public that are like kind of lashing and saying different things about music and stuff. And the most important thing is to not lose your own head when faced with animosity, because the moment that their comment means more than the intention we put into creating something, that is what really makes it more of an obstacle than looking at it as a, again, in the frame of mind. I always try to look at something from the complete end of things, even in my conceptualization. So even if your original concept is that this might receive a lot of hate or a lot of flack or whatever, I'm not going to allow that to become more important than me validating myself in what I'm creating. I have to first and foremost validate that what I'm creating is something that I love. And I have to keep reminding myself and keep praying to keep that faith strong whenever it gets, a lot of people can attack it once. And that's kind of how it seems, is one person jumps on this, bandwagon per se.
Yeah.
And then a lot more people jump on because they see that that's a popular thing to do. But in the reality, there's 196 different countries. Okay. There's 7 continents, and there's something like 7-8 billion people. And I've learned that it's so much more valuable to take those with a grain of salt, because they may be great at criticizing you, but are they creating anything themselves? Are they actually putting something good? Because it's easy to write things that people don't like, because it's fun for them to write and it's fun for them to read. It's fun for them to get a response. And maybe that's the only way that they're really getting any engagement, because they just weren't taught how to be a creator or even allow themselves. Maybe they limit themselves or restrict themselves from creating something. So kind of by proxy, they think that they're doing something beneficial, but they're not comparison. They're not in any singular kind of comparison to what you're doing. So whether you create something that's going to be loved by a lot of people, you got to know too, if you're going to be an individual, you're going to be yourself, you're going to always attract people that are going to be struggling to kind of get out of their head and do that themselves. So definitely take that into perspective, is that anytime a person has something negative to state about you or about what you create, just remind yourself that that creation didn't require them to say anything. They wouldn't have had anything to say anything about if you weren't out there putting your heart on the line for them to say something about. So they need that. Those kind of people that comment like that, they need you to continue being a creator, so they even have an opportunity to say something online. because without you, there wouldn't be a space for them to gather like that. So there's a lot. That's the thing, man. There's a lot more people watching and seeing and hearing you than the numbers are showing, because all of that can be changed like that. I mean, technology is so vastly different than what it was 10 years ago, and a lot of those negative comments, they're going to even bring people that are just intrigued. There's a lot of hate that's brought a lot of people to even become knowing of your name. So remember that one person may hate you, but there will be a million people behind that one that really love you. And that's the focus. That's what we have to keep reminding ourselves, is that there may be one really tough one, but it's only because there's something they feel that they're lacking in themselves that they have to call out about the creator that they're watching, because we're a reflection of each other when we give energy. So when we give good energy, we are a reflection of that to ourselves. But if somebody gives you bad energy, or me or Ashley or anybody, they're only reflecting back that there's something about themselves that they feel negative about. So be kind to yourself always, because creating is not easy, especially when you deal with the limitations and maybe not having the right equipment and stuff like that.
Right.
Keep the faith. Remind yourself that God's always going to watch you, always be your number one fan. And no matter who watches and who says things about you, there's nobody's opinion that matters more than the fact that you're really creating something for yourself. And that's beautiful.
When you are writing,
Mm-hmm.
you ever use like your personal surroundings or personal feelings or experiences in your music?
That's a key thing in music that through years of creating it has become even more. I guess my writing is kind of matured as well, because when I used to write, I would write very kind of like, I would hear music at first whenever I was becoming a creator, and doing lyricism and being a lyricist as well as creating the music itself. It creates a different relationship than just grabbing something offline, because when I first started, that's pretty much what I was capable of doing. I had a computer that I would download files from either YouTube or wherever, and I would just write something to it. But absolutely, when it comes to writing music, the more personal it really is, the better it really is, because being that person that's very open, it's not common to hear it in music right now. Like, I don't know that it's ever really been. It's always kind of been more about a certain formula, as far as like popular, whatever's popular and playing in the mainstream. However, I've always kind of leaned against doing the mainstream thing and not thinking the mainstream way, because I loved listening to Good Charlotte growing up. I loved listening to Ludacris. I loved listening to Ozzy Osbourne. I loved listening to Pantera. I loved listening to Waylon Jennings. I've grown up with a plethora of different styles of music my whole life. It doesn't just stop. It could go from the Dr. Dre, or it can go to AZ, or any of these kind of artists that I listen to. I love there's so many different groups and creators that why I listen to them is because they're out there really talking their truth. They're really out there being their individual self, and I respect that about creators. Really, like a tribe called Quest was really like that for me, and a lot of the De La Soul, when I started listening to their music, it's an energy, it's a vibe that you can feel with these creators. And there's a powerfulness in that peacefulness that they emulate in their songs. So definitely listening to artists and music that has more meaning to it than just a nice instrumental, some nice beats or something like that. Don't get me wrong, I still love to listen to like club tracks and party tracks and things like that, but they're designed intentionally for everybody to like them. And that's the difference about being, underground, is that a lot of people aren't going to like that you have a platform, that you're being original, that you don't have to necessarily follow what the contracts are saying, because those contracts don't define your nomenclature with your creativity.
Right.
So yeah, being open and being real and writing a lot about God lately has really opened that doorway for me, because it's like it's kind of like a hymn, you know. It's like my own book of Psalms. I have so many different songs that are glorifying God, and I'm learning more now. That's the purpose of being a creator, is that God's given us this ability to co-create and do all these awesome things in the world, whether there's things happening outside of all of us. We're here
Right.
together in this awesome
Mhm.
space through the things that we've created over time that have brought us to this moment, and that's phenomenal, for real.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you wasn't a creator or got into music, where will you see yourself as today?
That's an awesome that's an awesome question to think about. The most important one, the most important thing I can see doing today is being a father, being a good dad in the world. You know, more than anything else, if I could do anything other than music, and I do this all the time, don't get me wrong, I'm still a father that's involved with my children, but I really think it's important because a lot of the, like, again, the popular music and stuff that gets played has a kind of an underlying theme with a lot of these musicians, and a lot of these people have kids. And I'm
Mhm.
realizing now, like, looking at some of these artists, some of these guys have like 8 to 10 to 12 kids,
Yeah.
and not a lot of communication because they're either caught up in the music life, caught up into the industry life, or partying, or whatever they're involved in. But really, like, being a solid dad has made making music a lot more precious in that aspect, because that time is used now for very specific guidelines. There's no like, I'm going to take this time and go do whatever unless I actually make time to do that, because I have to be
Mhm.
intentional with 3 kids. Being a dad is very important to me, and learning more and sharing more. So I believe I'd still really be doing content creation, um, even if it weren't on a musical platform. I would still, you know, be advocating for individuality.
Uh-huh.
You know, moms and dads being able to spend more time with their kids. I do a lot of the growth and the networking and stuff on Facebook and different things like Instagram, and being involved in that, it helps in certain aspects. But again, it's all about that balance. So, but if I could get really down and dirty, if I was talking like making an income from doing something, I would be farming, man, because I feel like I've always farmed. I've always had that green thumb. So
Yeah.
I love nature. I love combining nature with technology and sharing it, because a lot of us don't get that time outdoors like we want all the time, because it's, you know, it's middle of winter. But I can make a video, and
Absolutely.
you could, just like us, you know, we can make a podcast together today, and somebody might be seeing us in 10 years from now or 20 years from now, you know? And
Right.
it's eventual no matter what. But when we're really consistent in anything that we do, it doesn't matter what that specific one thing is. It builds a harmonious balance of everything in our life. So no matter what we do, or what we choose to do, if it's content creation, if it's being a dad, if it's music, if it's farming, they can all go hand in hand when we bring them onto the online world, because a lot of other people are interested in these kind of topics all over the world. And
Yeah.
when they see us doing a lot of different things, they're like, wow, if they can do that, then maybe we can do it too.
Absolutely. 100%. At this time, everyone, we will be back with Standing Strong after this commercial break.
Waylon and Ashley will be back with the Standing Strong podcast after this break. It's my pleasure to introduce myself, Tyler Peters, as the voiceover for this commercial. I was the former co-host for this podcast. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Waylon and Ashley are two friends being a light and supportive leader for our daily life struggles. No one should feel alone or worthless. Let's be the change the world needs together. And I'll add this. It's an inspirational program when you're talking about standing strong. And as a former co host, I can vouch for this. Now let's hear a quote from the new co host, Ashley, beginning with quote 1. I am resilient. I try my best. I value my life. I am not perfect. I never give up. I am empathetic. I am a warrior, ready to conquer. I am not broken. I am loving. I take things one day at a time. I am independent. I am human. I'm a survivor. Quote 2. I don't know what you're going through, but it's going to be okay. The windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror for a reason, because what's in front of you is so much more important than what's behind you, quoted by the famed singer Jelly Roll. Here's some podcasts that inspire Waylon and all of us, beginning with Chasing Glory with Lillian Garcia, Gall TV with SoCal Val, Mickey James, and Lisa Marie Varon, the Culture Shocked podcast with Corey, Mike, and Adrian. And here's some podcasts that I host. Tyler's Takedowns and Tyler Talks Music are a part of DTP Productions in association with SJP World Media. They're all just great programs. As you can see, Waylon and Ashley are on this powerful mission in helping other people know they are worth it. I'm Tyler Peters. Now back to the Standing Strong podcast.
We are back with Standing Strong. Wow, Austin. So far, you have shown a lot of inspiring answering our question. How does it make you feel being a part of this program, being the music composer?
I think that the most important part about being the music composer on this program is the fact that you were so willing to open that doorway to me and offer me that opportunity, that I really felt that since we've made our connection, even beyond just the podcast as well, I have a great respect for anyone in this world that's going to be truthful and honest to me. And I have a really good sense, I believe in myself, about seeing that. So I really love the opportunity to be able to make the music here, because it's also something to add to what I do, because it expands, it enhances on what I'm able to do creatively. Because before you messaged me, I'll be honest, like before you reached out and said, hey, I'd like to, have some music for the show, it wasn't in my mind to create music in this kind of a platform. So I had to think, and I had to do it differently, because I'm used to making songs that are, at least, I don't know, I could say anywhere from, like, on average, my medium time is like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But a longer song would be like 4 minutes to 4.5 minutes, because that's a lot of time for someone to invest that maybe doesn't know you, maybe doesn't hear you often enough to, stick around the whole time. But that's the cool thing, is that whenever you offered me that opportunity, my mind kind of created a different doorway of possibility. In my mind is that I created something for the show once, and I think since episode maybe 50 that you guys have made, that song that I created, this just, the simple melody is now something kind of that's integral in this place as well. And like, I only want to make sure that I make the best of what I can make, to really make sure that you have the best of what you can make. And we can really, like, create a structured foundation beyond just what we do in singular. What's singularly ours is amazing. And when we come together and combine that, I can really see that difference. So that's been really cool, is seeing that, like, it was something that you loved enough to be able to put on something that you love enough to make and create. And that's a powerful feeling. So it made me inspired a lot more collaboration, especially working here with Standing Strong. And I'm looking towards opening that doorway up with, many more explorations that we may take, if we decide that we both wanted to try something together in a different platform, or a different world, or a different part of music or content creation. I just always want you to know, you've got me in your corner, man. You just got to tag me in when I have that time and I'm not with the fam. I'm always interested in creating and collaborating for positivity, for the goodness in the world that belongs here. That's what it's about. That's why we belong from different worlds collided now, because we're creators.
100%.
We make
Yep.
things together, and those things can become really epic when we put our tools together.
I agree. Now, speaking on bullying,
Mhm.
were you a victim of bullying? If so, how did you overcome it? And if not, what advice would you give someone out there dealing with getting bullied and how in time it will get better for them to not give up?
That's a very close to home hit because a lot of the younger years of my life, those were a lot more difficult as far as the bullying, um, kind of condition went. I think it was because I traveled as much as I did growing up. We moved a lot. So when I'd make friends one place, I'd have to go to another place. And then I had to shift and do that a lot of times. And it takes a lot. It wears you down as a kid, especially because you just get used to something and then you kind of get picked up and put somewhere else. It really opened a doorway, though, to something different because it took a lot of years to develop a self remedy for the problems that I had created for myself by continually allowing myself to, I guess, put up with it. Um, because when you want peace for everybody, it may not be easy to say that, you a bully is trying to keep attention off of them the most. And maybe they want attention, but they don't know how to get it in the good way that somebody that they may be bullying is getting attention. Maybe you're a good student. In a lot of instances, I was a good student. I did things in school. I raised my hand. And some people see that as a threat in school because they want to be acknowledged in the classroom. They want to be laughing and having conversations with the class and feeling included. So reminding ourselves that first and foremost, that if God is for us, then who can be against us?
Right?
That took the biggest time to adapt because once I started realizing that even looking at the story of Jesus and how he just wanted to help people freely without asking for anything in return, only to glorify God and the things that we do every day. That's the simplest thing to ask, is to just say, give praise to God that we woke up today. It's so simple. And if we remind ourselves, then it feels simple. But if we don't remind ourselves and we lose touch with our faith, we lose touch with our creativity, we lose touch with our individuality. And I think bullying is kind of like a consequence of society if you want to be anything that's different than the crowd. And if you're an anomaly, meaning that the individuality to you is more important than fitting in, that's going to draw a lot of animosity. And for those that draw a crowd to their truth, there's an important reason why we have to overcome the sticks and stones. But even in my youngest years, my grandmother used to tell me, sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt me. And
Right.
I'm rubber, you're glue. And those simple statements are so powerful because our words are sharp like a dagger. And when we use words, and we use our words with the intention to grow, to build, to prosper, those hit a lot differently than to hate or bully or lie. Things like that create a different feeling of an emotion. For anybody that is really struggling, especially being bullied, for whatever your circumstances are, if you don't have anybody physically in the moment that is in your corner, remember to stay grounded and talk to God and give it to God, because it gets heavy sometimes as a creator. It gets heavy sometimes looking back on the past and things that you wish that you could change. But the past can always become a great lesson, a great learning tool when we allow ourselves the grace in the instant that we feel negative about ourselves to say, well, even if I feel negative, God still gave me a chance to be here today. He still gave me the opportunity to open up my eyes this morning, to be able to speak, to be able to communicate. And if I have nothing else, at least I can have gratitude for still being here. And
Yeah.
that changes the way our mind thinks. It may not change the way that the bullies think, but it changes how we think. And then we keep putting things that make us feel gracious into our mind. And that's when the bullying subsides. Whether people do it or not, there's people even today that still bully me. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with knowing there's going to not be everybody out there agreeing with what I have to say, but I still want to wish them love. I still want to wish them something good, because that's how we gain more good for ourselves. And that's how we create the opportunity for them to realize that what they're doing is not very cool. Because they
Yeah.
might feel really like, oh, I shouldn't have bullied that person, because, now look at what they're doing in life, or look at what they've become, and look at what I'm doing with my life. There's a lot of comparison. There's a lot of envy. There's a lot of different, basically they're like sins that are happening when somebody wants to hurt another person. It's sinful. Bantering is sinful. So when we realize that all they're doing is lowering their vibration, lowering their frequency, when they speak negatively to us, by default, even if it makes us feel kind of crap and not so good, it's still by default elevating our frequency, because God doesn't just see that and let it go without being taken as a receipt. That's an energy exchange. So if you didn't give back negativity when someone was bullying you, you exchanged something positive with God. Whereas they exchanged something negative with you, they exchanged something disharmonious, something negative with God. So that disharmony is going to come into their life even more. So remember that even if they're bullying you and they got other people laughing, God has the last laugh.
100%.
Stay strong, stand strong, my friends, because it happens. I know it happens, and we're all going through that from different experiences and different levels every day. But just remember, stand strong. You got God on your side. Nobody can be what can be against you if God is all for you.
100%. Now, speaking of your faith in God, when you found God, how did that change your life to be who you are today?
Man, it was like, you ever walk into a building and look at maybe you walk into a gas station and you look into the cooler, and there's all these different drinks in there, but you can't decide on any one.
Right.
It's like all of a sudden, I can always decide exactly what I want. Instead of feeling indecisive, I really feel that having a relationship with God, having faith, has allowed me to always, first and foremost, keep the gratitude attitude, because when I start slipping, and it happens, I get upset, I get mad, sometimes I get putrid, and miserable to be around. And that's me admitting it to myself, because I want the reflection of myself onto the world to be projected as something positive. So when faith and God are so deeply rooted in my childhood, deeply rooted in my experience, deeply rooted in my music, I've surrounded myself with God as much as I possibly can. And when I feel weak, when I feel defeated, when I feel powerless, when I feel upset, I just say, God, please take these feelings from me that aren't helping me grow in this moment, and please replace them with something that shows me that this is going to be okay. This is going to be so much more than just a flash in the pan or a one-hit wonder, or just something that doesn't add up to what it's supposed to be. Because sometimes having things removed from us or being put in isolation, we have to realize that's the best time, where there's no one around. That's the best time for us to talk to God. And I believe having those that advocate around you is important, and allowing others around us to have our own relationship with God is just as important. And just advocating that for each other and just being real about it. We may believe in different religions. However, there's no religion that gets left out when it really comes to the conversation of God, because God transcends everything. God transcends and unites all the balance of the entire world. So even if people want to agree to disagree, they're still giving each other grace. And that is from God. That is beyond what we believe in scriptures or what we believe is this way or that way. God is beyond comparison to anything a man or a woman can give us when we open the door for him. So that's what the relationship has really opened for me, is the trusting in myself more, being more soft for myself, being more soft for my wife and my kids, and reminding myself that I'm here because God's given me another day every day. That's if I
Absolutely.
start my morning with nothing else, it's the first thing of my day is to just, even if it's not a, Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, even if it's just as simple as, thank you for giving me another day, God. Thank you for keeping my children alive today, waking me up with my wife, having a home, a roof over our head. Thank you for giving me enough. That's always important. I may want more, but if I keep trusting God that he's going to make sure it's taken care of, then I'll always have enough.
Amen. Amen. I love that. Now, Austin, speaking of anxiety and depression, how do you cope with that? And how do you make it a positive thing in your life?
Wow. That's first and foremost, that's the easy thing to say, would be just doing the best to remain balanced, because that's the exchange of energy. It has to be equal. And if we give a lot of energy away and it's not equal reciprocation, we drain ourselves so much quicker. But that's dealing with any kind of anxiety. It's just the instant of acknowledging something that brings our mind back to the calmness. I study like a lot of different theology, which are like different, religious texts and stuff like that. But see, they opened the doorway to these people like, Gandhi and Buddha and Jesus. And there's something very similar in common with all of these, idols that so many religions worship, is that Jesus never once said to worship him. He said to give the glory to God. And even in the Bible, before the Bible was created, Jesus was there. Jesus was before the Bible. The Bible came out after Jesus died. Christianity was created as a byproduct of Jesus dying and then his resurrection. That was a byproduct. So we look at that in a simple way in ourself by doing the same thing, is that anxiety is from something that there's a lack. Deepest rooted, it feels that there's a lack somewhere. We want to put something out that really strikes the world, but it maybe doesn't get the reaction or the response that we desire. Maybe it's like we've put everything we thought we could into something, but it demands so much more effort still. And we have to like be able to bring ourselves around to continuing what we do, whether we get support or not. Anxiety comes from feeling anticipation for something is going to happen and it not showing up on what we think is our time. But then it really breaks and boils down to really like divine timing is the best timing of all, because maybe we're not receiving something right now that we might be a little anxious about. But in reality, it's just kind of a test from the universe to see how we're actually going to handle these things whenever we do get them.
Right. 100%.
And that's the big one, is reminding ourselves there is more time. God's always gonna take care of it first and foremost. So we have to give him the worry when we feel the worry, because it's an energy exchange when we tell ourselves that something is bothering us rather than we're not going to let something bother us.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
having really good friends is really helpful to balance that out. But we have to remind ourselves to be our own best friend, because there might be a time that I want to reach out, and I know I have it a couple times. I've tried to reach out, maybe really late at night, trying to reach out to somebody. It could even be you. I've tried to reach out late at night, you
Yeah.
know, and I can really feel it, man. Sometimes it's like, oh, something really is a hard hit, and I'm like, man, it's like another hard blow. But I have to remember that, like, I can't put that on you either. You know, I could tell you my problem, but I don't want you to be consumed by it the way I allow it to consume myself. You know,
Right.
how do I navigate this? Because we conversate about these topics frequently sometimes. And we have had people in different situations that made looking forward seem kind of bleak. Or, you know, we ask ourselves questions as creators, you know, why am I still doing this? Why do I keep doing this? But really, what you're doing is the same thing even people that aren't producing something are doing. They're asking themselves, why aren't they doing it? You're asking yourself why you are. They're asking why they aren't.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's conflicting because nobody wants to not be doing something. We all want to be included, but there's a learning curve that we haven't realized is included yet. There might be some difficult task to overcome that seems like it's just not close enough to our reality to grab it and take it, you know, and be like, we do this because we want to do it, and we do it because it makes us feel good. And when we do it for that purpose, and we do it because, you know, again, God gave us the breath in our lungs today to be here, you know, the camera on our screen with the internet connection, all these things are so valuable, but we don't always take those into perspective. So anxiety, bullying, any kind of opposition, something slowing us down or making us feel heavy, in the instant is just say, you know, God, just please remove this heaviness, and, you know, please let me fly. You know, please teach me. Hey, please give me the wings that I need, or give me the gust of wind it requires to at least get me going. And, you know, please keep me aligned with creating more momentum for myself and keeping positivity in the front of my mind, because as that grows, we become more, you know, not only reflective in a positive way, but the whole narrative of life starts to change and look a little bit different. It's not always easy. It's not as easy as it's like you can have 20 people that you really, really loved in life that you no longer talk to. But we don't have to feel any less love for any one of them than we do for all of them. You know, people have come and gone in our life as much as we've come and gone in theirs. And when we give each other that love, even though we're not together, that helps that anxiety tone down and become a lot more tolerable, when we just admit that it's okay to kind of not feel like we're doing the best today, or, you know, whatever. But if we can say to ourselves, you know, are we doing our best? Is this our best effort? Then that's huge. That's all we can ask for.
Right. 100%. What advice would you give someone out there who is struggling with anxiety and depression, and to let them know, you know what? We all have bad days, but it's gonna get better.
So that's a great question, because that reminds me of what Ashley had to ask for me earlier. That brings me around to writing music that means something to me. Music has really been my go-to when I get really, really sad, like really sad, man. And I make some songs that are just like, what? At least how I see them. I just am that way. But when I write, I feel there's a release there that is significant, because it makes me think differently before I write it on paper. I don't know if you guys write very often, but I've been keeping like a journal since, I don't know, maybe I was 17. I started really, really a journal when I was 13, when I was seeing psychologists and stuff like that for bullying, and getting put on, you know, psych medicines and stuff from a very young age. I was taking psych medicines at 11. So, and they were like citalopram and Depakote, like for like mood stabilization, trazodone for sleep. I had a hard time getting to sleep, staying asleep. So like I said, I have definitely had, I used to have a lot of those that would just bully me for my looks, my teeth. I used to have like a Southern accent because I lived in Dallas for years, you know. Those things coming back north were different. But being from the north, it felt like it was always home. I was, you know, born right in Brookville. So it wasn't far from here, but I didn't live there my whole life. We moved when I was really little to Dallas. So writing stuff down, writing little post-it notes, I put them all over my house. Writing for me has been a good way because once I put it on paper, it stays forever. And I can look at it on my mirror. I can write like positive messages for myself. And even when I'm in a bad mood and I'm looking at something, I'm like, really, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm really mad. I'm fired up. And then I have like a post-it note that I hid in my notebook for myself to go looking through or something later down the line. Kind of frame your mind like it's like finding money that you left in a pocket somewhere and you feel really happy when you find it. It's kind of like that, you know, put a good message in your wallet. You know, I can make
Yeah.
it through. I will prevail. Time will keep going and I'll keep pushing through. Keep the positive words coming out because those create the positive energy outside of us that allows us to have more of that inside. Even if you don't necessarily feel it right now, that's how our reality is created. We say that we want something and then we go get it. But the thing about the fifth dimension and different realities, because we're here multiple screens, but we're all in different rooms.
Right.
So it's different dimensions. We're in a different dimension right now, but we all come together in the same dimension right here. So when we tell ourselves something right now, like it's already happened, like
Right.
Waylon, I'm so freaking honored to be part of the show. You know, I know now that there's over 20 million views. I know now that there's over 20 billion followers. They say that there's not even 20 billion people. I cease to exist that. I think anybody can exist. I think there can be people that love your content enough. They like go on 20 different channels and follow you on all of their channels.
Absolutely.
I believe this. I believe in this. I believe in Ashley and the collaboration and being here and uniting and bringing on a new kind of an energy is so important. And I believe that you've already acquired amazing success and you will continue to acquire more amazing success every time you make a show. And I'm so honored to be a part of that.
Thank you. I'm honored you have accepted to agree to come on and be a part of this podcast with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if it's behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's the way that it's supposed to be. If I'm still in the show with the music, it's still an honor to even have the opportunity to just have a moment on the show to still want to give good energy, still want to give something good to the world. That's important. That's so important. Your puppy is very cute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and helps Ashley along with her anxiety and depression. So if anyone's delving with, and yeah, absolutely. So if anyone's delving with anxiety and depression, get a support dog like Ashley did.
That's a great thing to have.
Yeah, any animal, honestly. I just went with a dog. I've always grown up around dogs, and I dealt with a lot of junk, to put it professionally, over the last few years, and I wasn't able to have one, and I kept telling myself, oh, I'm not going to have kids, I'm not going to get a dog, I'm just going to do my thing, dump myself into work. Yeah, that wasn't a healthy mindset. And then Quinn, matter of fact, today's her 1 year gotcha day. Quinn was in a bad situation herself. I was in a bad situation myself. A friend of mine called and said, hey, that's my puppy that I bred and sold. She's like, can you go get her from the shelter? And I said, yeah, I'll go get her. Well, then a bunch of junk happened along down the lines, and I ended up with her. And the girl that I'm best friends with that bred her, Quinn's mom and dad, couldn't take her, and she's like, I'm so sorry. So she helped me get her food, water, and a crate for her to get her crate trained, and I've had her a year, and my mood has totally changed, and same with my mindset for the better. So between God and a dog.
Yeah, seriously, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yep,
It takes a lot to be a dog parent too. I give everybody that has a dog props, because potty training's not easy, but especially when you got to go outside and potty train, that's a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. So, Austin, there's a lot of people who struggle with their weight, their
Mhm.
size,
Yep.
their height, and all that. What advice would you give to let them know don't beat yourself up over that? It's your mindset, and if you want to accomplish something in your life,
Mhm.
do it.
I'd say what makes us the most beautiful is what makes us stand out. And sometimes our physical weight can be a reflection of the weight that we put on ourselves in our mind. Not only is it important to eat things and ingest food and things that make us feel better, that give us nutrition, it's important to also feed nutritional thoughts into our minds. It's important to not just feed our body, but it's important to feed our spirit too. Because if we're only feeding our body, our spirit doesn't always know when it's full. Um, and that's where, faith is eating something as much as eating like what we want to eat today. It, it
Right.
it gives us this vitality that helps us look at ourselves and reframe how we look at ourselves. Um, it doesn't seem like much now looking back, because I'm heavier now than I was at the time. But I think when I was in seventh grade, and even from members of my family, they would say, they make comments and stuff, you're fat, or you don't have this and you need to go out and do that, or you're not going to have friends and stuff, you're going to keep getting bullied. That doesn't help somebody who's physically going through the difficulties of being bullied. But the best thing is finding a great adversary of mine is getting out and using the bike trail. I love the bike trail. A lot of people have a different hobby, but that for me, I love to have a hobby that keeps me active and it allows me to go outside. I love doing plant identification and stuff now. The more I've done that, the more I've learned about different forms of food, different forms of medicine, different forms of nutrition. So, somebody, even if they don't eat very often throughout the day, but they eat things that are really unhealthy, it will show in our body that we're feeling unhealthy. We don't have to even eat very much. And that's why it is so difficult sometimes to look at ourselves and love ourselves when we're heavy, because we're not having something in our diet that's um, giving us vitality. It's actually restricting us from feeling better. I used to love drinking Mountain Dew. I used to love drinking, I drank endless, infinite bottles of Dr. Pepper, like for years. But I always, even as a young boy, water was very important. Even living in
Right.
Dallas, I would drink the Dallas water, because it wasn't that great. It tasted like what's that stuff in pools? What do you call it? Chlorine.
Chlorine.
Yeah, it was like constant. It's so bitter.
Yeah.
It was not good, and it was right out of the tap. I wasn't even drinking out of a Brita filter. This is like the late '90s, early 2000s.
Right. I can still to this day, every night when they do their cleaning, you can smell it in the
Oh,
sink.
oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing for anybody that's dealing with like any weight issues. I've been there too, and I'm even right now, like I haven't weighed myself in like 6 months, but doing things to keep ourselves active and to keep ourselves nourished, they're both important in that situation. It doesn't mean that when we're not doing one or the other that we're lacking in one or the other, because our body needs time to recover from emotional exhaustion as much as it needs from physical
Right.
exhaustion. But it's when we keep feeding good things in ourself that our emotions are able to feed good things into themselves. So that exhaustion
Absolutely.
starts to go away.
Yeah.
So, the apple a day is not a very, very difficult thing for us to do. But if we don't realize that maybe this apple's not as nutritional because maybe we're not cleaning it properly or doing something with it that could help us, remineralizing our bodies and our food is huge, because when we start doing that, the functions in our system work much better. And I do
Right.
study a lot of plant medicine. I study traditional Chinese medicine. I study now traditional Indian medicine, as well as a lot of Eastern medicines and things that don't get talked about in our culture,
Uh-huh.
that people are healing, not just, losing weight, but feeling good about losing weight. Nature has a trillion different kinds of Ozempic. you know it has a
Right.
trillion different kinds of um, things that are created like a sedative or other things
Yes.
that are to bring your mind back online. So looking into nutritional foods and taking just a walk is so important, because even if you have a hard time getting off weight and stuff like that, draining out our lymphatic system, that's huge. That's basically our body sewer system. So when it gets clogged, when we use aluminum deodorants and stuff like that, when we have a lot of preserved foods,
Mhm.
sodium, salt itself, that's one thing, but salt added with all of the other things and all these other components, the sulfites, the sulfates, we got to be more aware about what we're consuming, because if we're just consuming anything, our body and our mind and our spirit is going to reflect that. So anybody that's struggling with your weight, it's not just what you consume in your mouth, it's what you consume in your eyes, it's what you consume in your ears. And we have to remember that if we don't have that balance, it's creating an imbalance. So if you think that you could do better with a diet, add that, see how that balance works. If you think maybe doing a little bit more physical activity could help, see what the balance is. Just don't kill yourself trying to go so hard right when you start, because it takes a little bit to get the body in motion. We're kind of like a locomotive. We're like not a roller coaster. We could be like when you're going up to the top, how it takes time
Right.
to get up to the top, but then it's a great ride all the way down. Or
Yes.
it's like a railroad, it's like a train on a railroad. The train's not automatically going 100 mile an hour. It takes a long time to get that engine started. So starting with one change a day, just one consistent change every day for at least 22 days. They say that it takes at least 22 days to start a new habit. If you have a bad habit, I used to smoke cigarettes. I replaced that by running, and I also helped myself lose weight, and I helped myself get over that addiction, because I smoked cigarettes for 8 years.
Yeah.
So it took a long time. I tried to quit many times, but I had to reward myself. Still, I didn't punish myself for smoking cigarettes. I said, I'm going to go on a run every other day after I get off of work. And after I'm done with my run, I'm going to give myself an Outshine bar popsicle, the strawberry ones. And that's kind of what helped me. Weight, that was that was a middle school thing. Then I kind of had, I went into like, kind of I wouldn't say anorexic, but I wasn't. If I would eat, I would eat like once a day, and then I would run for like 3 to 4 hours a day. And I would do like probably like 100 to 200 push-ups and like 500 to 1,000 sit-ups. I was obsessed because of how negatively I had allowed myself to feel about my body. And
Yeah.
I'll have to show you guys pictures of like, when I was heavier. I thought 186 pounds was heavy, because I was in middle school. Now I'm probably like, I don't know, 220, 230. That's being, honest. I don't even know. I might weigh more. I might weigh less. I haven't looked at a scale in over 6 months, but that's also helping me feel more healthy and not putting this expectation that I have to have a certain number on that scale. Because
Right.
that becomes a pattern as well, as trying to see this certain number on a scale, but then looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I just don't look that number to myself. Because I keep trying to make that number go lower, doesn't mean that my body is actually my body didn't like it. I went from 186 pounds to in 3 months, I dropped to 136 pounds in
Dang.
3 months. Yeah. From the beginning of summer to the start of school in my 8th grade year, I did that, or my 8th going into my 9th grade year. And I would eat maybe like a hot dog and a piece of watermelon a day. And then I'd wear like I said, I would wear like a plastic bag like the wrestlers would do. They wear like a garbage bag, and I'd put a hoodie on over it, and I would go running from the south side of OC all the way up to Kevin's Circle up in the Heights, and then I would run all the way back down, or I would run out to the mall, and then I'd run all the way back in to OC, or I'd run to Titusville, and then I'd run back from Titusville. Oh yeah. So I was very deep in my belief that like I wasn't good enough, you know, but I ran, and it helped me in different ways because I was coming back online from all the years of like emotionally and physically abusing myself for thinking I didn't have enough. That was kind of that was me dealing with myself in a different way because I never did that before. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But, you know, that a mix of a good diet, really strong prayers throughout the day, and just openness to be able to change. The openness is all it takes, because at least then you create the awareness in your mind that you want something different, and God will provide that for you when you ask him.
Yeah, 100%. I love the response you just shared with us. Now, Austin, I am going to combine the next two topics together. What advice would you give someone out there feeling alone, and because they're feeling alone, peer pressure come into play, where these negative people try to drag you into their bad choices, even drinking, smoking, doing crimes, to make them get out of the feeling alone mindset and to doing, hey, join us to do this. This will make you a better person, even though we were not.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone out there about peer pressuring? How that's not okay. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't have you feeling alone play a factor into that topic.
That acceptance and wanting to feel validated that we're part of something can come with a really taxing cost. And I totally have had experience in that question personally, because I thought for the longest time, you know, in order to be successful in music, I had to work with successful musicians, or I had to work with other musicians or other people who I knew that were maybe from where I was from, because that's what I thought that was my access. You know, I didn't necessarily like think so internet minded like the way I do now, where I collaborate, you know, with a lot of different creators from wherever. Before it was just kind of a local thing. But for anybody that's dealing with that isolation, maybe they feel that if they went and spent time with somebody, they would learn something different, or they'd have a better experience. Maybe they wouldn't be so bored. We have to realize that, again, our relationships all have a cost incurring. And if we give more to the relationship than we take from the relationship, we're doing ourselves a disservice by not allowing ourselves the grace to say, I would probably be better staying in tonight than going out and doing something that's going to get me involved with, you know, drugs, or get involved with crime, or get involved with anything that is creating imbalance. Because a lot of us, when we feel the urge or the desire to have kind of an external friendship, or a friendship outside of just what we have with ourselves, some of us don't really take into consideration what we ourselves are willing to put up with before we just go have a friendship or a relationship. We don't have like a clearly defined boundary. Then we can get involved in things that we maybe didn't want to be involved in from the beginning. And that doesn't always, it's not always in the same, you know, not every relationship works the same. So we might hang out 10 times online, but then we hang out one time in person. And now all of a sudden, our lives are kind of overlapping because in the physical world, we do different things than we do together in the online world. With social media, especially with everything going on in the world nowadays, it's so much easier for us to build relationships, it feels like, online, but we kind of squander them in person because we either only have a friendship online, and it's okay to be a great friend with somebody online. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's really, really good friends we can have online, but that's another thing to advocate for, is that if we don't, our vibe attracts our tribe. So if we're not having very good vibes, we're not having very good time with ourselves, we're going to also attract energy that's going to take that from us rather than give us that good feeling from ourselves. So it's different now, at 30 than it was whenever I was 18, because at 18, I didn't think like I do now, where it's like,
Right.
I can really put myself in a bad situation, in harm's way, if I don't think about it before I do it. And that's the most important thing, is to think about how that relationship is going to bring you something good in life. And it doesn't mean that relationship has to bring you diamonds and gold, not but it's sometimes really good conversations with somebody that advocates for you having more mental clarity, that somebody for you having more peace in your life. That's a friendship that right off the bat, even if it doesn't feel as fun or extravagant as a relationship that is giving you, gifts all the time and doing things for you and taking you places. Even though people don't show it, they're being taxed when they're giving so much. And some relationships, that becomes concurrent to how they explode at the same time, because somebody is trained on their side to give, but they don't know how to receive. And when we're grateful and we're like, thank you, and giving graciousness, for someone that hasn't received graciousness in a long time, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
That's how we all raise our elevation together, is that we find like-minded creators. Especially, if we're creators, we already have like a different connection than just a friendship. It becomes like a collaboratorship, where it's like we come together because like we're constructing something that is helping us grow. I think if we get caught up into relationships that don't make us grow in a positive way, it's good that first we acknowledge it, and then also take a little bit of time to, if a relationship's not healthy, you just shouldn't even worry about it. Take that for the grain of salt that it is. If you're hanging out with somebody and they're trying to break windows out of cars to break in and steal stuff, or, if they're going and they're trying to fight people at the bar or something like that, that's not going to be a very fruitful relationship for a very long time, So that's the point, is seeing those things. And some of us have to experience it for ourselves, sadly. We can't see that experience from another perspective because we don't have that perspective yet. But I feel like a lot of the younger generation and stuff like that are seeing a lot of creators and putting on a lot of different content, and they're awakening at a younger age to making the same mistakes as somebody that didn't have the internet or different people to look up to or advocate for them, or create any clear line of communication, because nobody's looking to become a criminal by going and hanging out with somebody, or no one's looking to become, addicted to drugs and alcohol because they went to hang out with somebody once and now they continually do the same thing every time they hang out. It becomes a habit. But a real true friend is always worth telling them what's uncomfortable, saying, hey, I really love you as a friend, I really care about you, but I can't do this with you. And I don't want you to take that wrong. I'm not going to say anything about what you do to other people, because that's not my business. But I just want you to know that if we want to hang out, we've got to hang out, and we've got to do something different than this. I don't know what that thing is, but if you care enough about me and I care enough about you, then we can come to some kind of a compromise where both of us feel that we're We're still having a great time, but we're just not putting each other in a bad position to do that anymore. That's important. Communication, that's essential. The right
That's key.
is key.
All right, everyone. At this time, I'm gonna throw it over to Ashley so she can ask Austin some of her topic of questions.
All right.
All right. You said you had struggled with addictions to cigarettes and stuff.
Yes.
Did you have any other addictions you struggled with, Austin?
I definitely have. It's not only it's the addiction to wanting to be recognized that created the addiction to doing things, taking substances, thinking that these kinds of things were going to bring recognition. But really deep down, I had to realize what I was attracting from those people was not those people that, I'm trying to like comprehend it or to wrap my mind around it to make it make sense. But wanting to fit in the wrong places caused me to live in that kind of a lacking mentality, where if they're not my friend, then my life won't be happy. It won't be successful. They seem happy. They seem successful. They seem like they have something that I want to have, but I don't know how to get that if I don't know them. And it's like this. I had to absolutely stop comparing myself to everybody. And when I finally quit, when I sit down at the end of the day, I'm not going through my feed to engage with people that don't like or that don't communicate or that don't actually have a real life presence in my life in that kind of a consideration. Like if I have never met somebody, I'm not just going to engage with them or respond to something right away, because if I don't know them, I don't know them. I'm not going to, entertain something that I'm not sure about like that. But that's what it became, was that the other things that I became addicted to became me entertaining people that I didn't need to entertain. And sure, they'd be like, come and rap, man. We want to hear you. We want you to come out and kick it. We want you to come to the party. We want to hear you rap. But they would want me to drink with them. They would want me to do whatever else. And these kinds of things evolved to me going back in my own home and asking myself, why do I do this here, but I'm not comfortable doing these things within my own life?
Right.
And if we have the blessing of realizing that before we get too deep into what we get addicted to, then we have a different kind of a life. We can have a different life. It's that sometimes we get wrapped up in the fast lane kind of a lifestyle. Everything's changing so fast all the time. Our brain's not having enough time to comprehend what's going on. Our body's just going with the flow of things that we forget and we create. I look at everything this way now. It's not good or bad anymore. It's balance or it's imbalance. God doesn't see good or bad. God sees imbalance or balance.
Right.
So if I'm going out to a party, say I go to a party once a year, that's an occasion. Okay, but if every weekend becomes an occasion and then every couple days throughout the week becomes an occasion, now it's a lot more than just an occasion. Sharing your excitement with others can open that doorway a lot too. Sharing your numbers, sharing things you do online, it attracts people that want to do things like that, but they don't realize that like getting numbers and stuff online, it's a task if you do it a certain way. It's a job if you do it the right way. And it really is a job to make social media content. It's a job to be a content creator.
Oh, yeah.
And some people don't realize how powerful their individuality is and how a lot of people want to hang out with them and connect with them, but they're just as afraid that something could happen in the same regard. Like they don't know if you're somebody that's capable of handling yourself in public if they've never seen you in public. Because they see you as the person that's creating all the time. They don't get to see the person that you are when you're not on screen.
Exactly.
And that creates that misconception that a lot of people online create this portal where only the good things can be there. It's like they're on vacation or they buy a new car or they have like, some party and there's people over and they get all the people together to take a picture. Those things are fine and dandy, but you got to realize that every single person in those photos at one point or another is going to leave and go their separate way just the same. And that person's going to sit there alone looking at everybody else's photos on Facebook that has their friends, and they're going to feel just the same.
Yeah.
100%.
And it happens. Some people are really, really good at, I wouldn't say even faking their happiness, but like kind of putting their happiness and putting their truest intentions to the side because they just want to see what it unfolds like if they involve the right people. But when you become the right person, your life will always unfold the way you want it to. And if you put in the effort and the work, you will become the right person. Not just you or me or Waylon, not just any of us, all of us. I mean, we all can be the right person individually when we trust ourselves enough that maybe I shouldn't go out to the bar tonight. Maybe I shouldn't be going out to this place tonight because I know there's going to be things there that are going to be an influence to me. And if I'm not in my clear, sound mind, that influence is going to become more powerful than my ability to say no.
Exactly.
We have to be strong in the ability to say no as much as we are in the ability to say yes, even to ourselves. Because we don't realize that it's not that we don't want to say no to others. It's that we don't want to say no to ourselves.
Right.
Right.
That's discipline. That's creating discernment. And that's the ability to judge well. I could have went to my prom, but if I would have went to my prom with the people that invited me that wanted to go out after prom, I would have also probably had gotten a DUI along with the other 300 kids that went to the same high school that all got caught that all got the DUI. I'm glad I didn't go, At first I was
Absolutely.
like, it's like my senior year, it's my prom, but I was like, man, it really wasn't my prom,
Right. It was their prom and their problems.
They do this every year. It doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a graduating classman or whatever, you're gonna get a prom. It's not. It is what it is, man.
Right. Absolutely. 100%.
I'll just combine the last two. Have you ever been a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault violence or anything like that?
Yeah. Actually, I have been all of the above. The physical, first time anything physical happened to me that I can recall, I was about 8 years old. I was at my great grandmother and grandfather's camp. They weren't there at the time, but their sons were. They were my uncles, which were my grandfather's brothers. And my one uncle, he just was like, hey, I need you to come into the camp. And I was like, okay. I was like always the one at camp. It's a camp out in Marionville.
Yeah.
But we were always hanging out, whatever. And then, he invited me into the cabin basically. And then he was like, come over here. And I walked over to the sink and he grabbed my hand and put my hand on the counter. And he said, now don't move your hand. And he said, don't make a noise. And he just started smashing my knuckles with this big metal spoon, like a big heavy spoon for like a witch's pot, like this thing.
Wow.
Like this, it was like this long,
the ladle type like thing.
Yeah, like a big fat ladle head on it. And he didn't hit me with the flat part, he hit me with the edge of the spoon. Yeah, and he just kept wrapping my knuckles, man, and he wouldn't quit.
Yeah.
And I was like, stop, I forgive him, I forgive him now, even though for years I was afraid that something was going to come of it. Now I'm like, whatever. Because I realized that I can't hold animosity for something and still feel good about myself. Because if I'm still angry at somebody else, there's a part of myself that's unhealed,
Right.
Another instant, it was 4th of July one year. It was actually, it would have been around the time, actually, I was just starting it was coming into the time that I was working up at Matrix. And it would have been, I'd say 2016 in July, the 4th of July, I went to a party and I saw a friend there, or who I thought was a friend, and we used to hang out all the time. We'd go to parties together. I'd pick him up in my car. I'd drop him off. I'd take him with me when I would do shows, all kind of stuff. I took him everywhere. And I saw him at the party. I hadn't seen him in months. So, I walked up to him and, I was like, oh, hey, man, I went to give him a hug and he pushed me away. And I was like, no harm, no foul. I don't know what the deal is, but, have a good night. I didn't even get mad. I didn't think nothing of it. I went up to the party. He was coming down from it. It was in the woods somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I walked down from the party and he was standing by the car that I was going to get into. And he was like, are you ready? And I was like, ready for what? And he comes walking up to me and he rips his shirt off and he just starts slugging on me, man. My glasses go flying off my face. I fell to the ground because I was standing on a hillside. So, he pretty much just rushed me, knocked me down. And then, my oldest brother was there. And the girl I started dating at the time, the same night I asked her out, she was there. And a couple other people were there as well. And they all stood there and just watched this happen. And the whole time I was just trying to find my glasses because, dude, like, you know what I mean? Like they're my one pair of glasses. I was, but the worst, the injury to the insult was that, I had spent so much effort and time to involve this person to show them that they mattered to me, for that to happen. And I'm telling, I didn't want to go outside for months. Like my face was bad. Like he kicked me in the cheek right here, with a boot on. Like I was hurt, really bad. And I went to the hospital. They said if I wanted to press charges, I could, but they were going to have to press charges on me because I had alcohol in my blood. I was only 20, or I was only 19 or 18 at the time. They dropped it completely, never fined me, never did anything because I never followed up or filed anything with it because I was like, dude, that's crazy. Like, do you not see my face? Like, I was at the hospital just leaking blood. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
But that's why it's something to me now where I don't have as many physical friendships that happen in real life as much as they happen online anymore, because like I gave my heart to be a friend with that person. I gave my love, I gave my time, I gave my shine to that person. I helped him meet girls out there. I would talk him up. I would be his wingman type of a thing.
Right.
And then to get that kind of a treatment in return really made me like, I was really bitter, and I wasn't afraid that something like that would happen again from somebody else doing it. I was afraid of what I would have done if that would happen to me again, because I was very angry. I was very resentful, and that anger had built up. Then I started getting into, different habits, just to kill my pain. I would be drinking, or I would be smoking and hanging out and doing stuff with people because they were welcoming. They didn't treat me like that, but I wasn't realizing that, they weren't hurting me physically. They were doing something to me mentally and spiritually by constantly having having a friendship, but the friendship be based around substances more than it was based around who we were when we came together. We became like a crew when we were together, but we were a crew because we would hang out and party together, not because we would hang out and like go do things that were healthy for all of us to do. We could have gone to the bike trail and skipped rocks. We could have gone kayaking, but every time we would hang out, it was like, let's go get a bottle. Like, let's do this, let's do that. And I got to the point where I was like, man, this is going to kill me if I keep putting myself in an environment where my body's not getting any rest,
Exactly.
So I was like, I got to chill and feel good to come out here and to make a presentation, because I want to do shows where my friends would be like, hey, I want to kick it tonight. Can I come to your show? I'd pick them up. I'd bring them to the city with me. And then I would get to the show and they would disappear. Or I would get to the show and be like, hey, can you shoot, can you do some photos for me? And they're like, yeah, I got you. And I'm like, here, use my camera. And then they would be out they would take my camera and they would go take pictures of the other artists at the show, and they wouldn't do any photos of me. And I'm like, Bro,
Wow.
I just tried to teach you how to shoot a professional photo on a photography camera. Like I needed you to help me do this. Like, but then I had to go 4 hours later. I had to drive around the city and figure out where you went and who you went with, because you've got $1,000 camera of mine in your possession right now that I need back.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I had a lot of situationships like that where somebody would be like, I would say, hey, I want to do a music video. I need 10 people to do a video. So 10 people would hit me up. But then it would turn into 10 people would be they would be completely dependent on me making sure that everything that they were doing with me happened, because I felt obliged. I'm like, if I'm going to have you shoot a music video with me, I'm going to take you out and get you some food. I'm going to take you out and we're going to go to some different places. I'm going to introduce you to some of the producers that I know, some of the people I create with.
Mm-hmm.
And it became more of like, oh, well, he can get us into different rooms with different kind of people that we want to be around, more than we want to be with him, because even though he's around it, he's not in it like that.
Right.
And I always knew a lot of people. I was always around a lot of people, but I wouldn't get involved past maybe hanging out a time or two just to figure out who they were. And then I'd be like, that's not where I'm going to be hanging out, because of the environment not being healthy. When you're making music and you don't have equipment, you have to go to the studio. So I would pay the cost to go to the studio, or I would go to a studio and have a consultation. And I'm like, I need some friends with me because I don't know these people at the studio. I don't know what they're about. So it adds a layer of protection. But when your friends that you're with are trying to be rock stars without actually being musicians, it makes it very difficult to be a musician at the end of the day, because now you're trying to keep all your rock star friends,
Right.
from dying and overdosing because they just want to party. They just want to be involved because they think it's going to bring them some type of a glamorous environment or something like that. But music and studios are kind of a whack like place if you're not there making music, because they have waiting rooms and stuff like that where people that aren't creators, they don't get in. They stay in the lobby to make it, when they need someone to listen to the music in the studio after it's all done, maybe they get invited in. But normally they're the ones that show up that just want to drink, they just want to smoke or do whatever. And they're just sitting in the lobby drinking and smoking. And the artists are coming in and out, and they're just being entertained by the people that are coming in and coming out making the music. So it's a strange dynamic if you're in the music world. I've seen it in LA. I've seen it in Pittsburgh. So I've had experience from West Coast and East Coast that was very similar. But the best environment is a place that you feel safe, a place that you feel heard, and that you feel respected. And if you can't be met with that same respect, that's not a good place or a good environment to help you grow,
Right.
Yeah, 100%. All right, everyone. At this time, we are gonna flip the table and give Austin Siar the opportunity to ask me or Ashley questions.
I will start first. Ladies first. All right. I think that something that's been important. I've known Waylon just a little. I mean, I've known of you both because obviously through our mutual creations and things together. I've known Ashley a little bit longer through work and stuff like that, getting to know Waylon. But there's something that when we worked in at the, we'll just say the shop together, when we both worked together, would you have ever anticipated being on a podcast now? And if not, then what did you anticipate possibly doing where you're at now?
Honestly, from then to now, I really didn't even think I'd be where I am today doing what I'm doing. I always thought I'd be just stuck in the shop doing that type of work. But unfortunately, with the company that we were pulling kits and stuff for at the time, that big mining company, when it left, there went my job, So I went and did several different ventures in the career force.
Yeah.
And then hooking back up with Waylon and him asking or saying, "Hey, I don't have a co-host," and I asked him like, "Well, what's that have to do with your podcast?" He explained it to me. I'm like, "Well, hey, here's another endeavor. Let's jump on this horse and ride and see where it goes."
Heck yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, I never pictured being on a podcast till it just kind of fell in my lap and said, "Here you are."
I love to be able to see that it's been a healthy direction, and I believe that with Waylon especially, that's the best direction. I think finding anything going forward is collaborating with somebody that's also very passionate and compassionate about others, sharing and being positive. So I think that you guys have definitely found like a really good formula. And the more these shows get created, I know that Waylon is incredibly skilled when it comes to making the videos and putting things out. And many people don't realize that with the right tools at the right time, things can become so much more vivid and more clear and apparent. But as the person I believe I am, like I've felt that about these creations ever since that I've come in contact. So I have to first off just commend you guys for being able to work together, because I've not ever found anybody else that I could work with consistently and do something that's so unified that it feels really organic and really just it's a very peaceful energy here that we have been, you know, creating and sharing with each other. So I think that whatever you have planned on doing till now, this is definitely a great thing in the grander scheme of all these things that have happened.
Yeah.
I have a deep one here, Waylon. I know that you've maybe had one person that might have touched on some topic similar to this. But I'm looking and I'm also asking myself questions that other guests, because obviously being the 73rd guest, you've had quite a plethora of questions asked. So I want to be unique in my question asking. I want to ask you something that is not only important to the collective, but also that represents you and the identity that you have created from the show. When you started, what was the feeling behind Standing Strong podcast?
When I first started podcasts, I was nervous as hell. I didn't know exactly what's gonna happen with this.
Yeah.
Like, I started a YouTube channel about COVID time, and I did a talk show where I asked YouTubers questions. It was Well Talk with Waylon Myers.
Yeah.
But I did it for a little bit. I did 10 episodes, and I'm like, Well Talk with Waylon is not my cup of tea. It's non meaning my podcast. So I took a little bit of time off and I was like, what can I do to make this passionate and meaningful and just putting my voice out there to help other people feel like they are something in this world. So I was like, and then that's when Standing Strong came to mind, and I'm like, I am gonna stand strong and not pay attention to any negativity that came my way. So
Man,
I was like standing strong with Waylon Myers, and I was nervous as heck. I thought that I had to have an episode every single week. I have to have a guest. I had to do a promo image. I had to get the bios and all that, and it was getting to the point when I did 7 episodes, and after my 7th episode, I was gonna give up. I was gonna quit because I'm like, you know what? This isn't working out. No one wants to help someone like me with a speech impediment. So I was beating myself up over that. So I talked to Tyler Peters. I've asked Lillian Garcia some questions and asked her for advice about podcasting, and she told me you just have to be yourself and
Hmm.
trust that it's enough. So I went with that, and I'm like, I took time away, and I came back. I interviewed friends, family, people from high school, YouTubers, and I'm like, what can I do to make this podcast even more into depth with what I'm bringing to this table? So
Hmm.
I reached out to actors, doorman actors. I reached out to fitness expert, and I'm like, hey, I do this podcast about bullying, anxiety, depression, people who feel like they're not alone or they feel
Mhm.
like committing suicide is the answer, which is not.
Uh-huh.
So I interview all these amazing people. I've interviewed CEO of Buck Up. I interviewed Amy O'Neill from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I interviewed Lillian Garcia, and I'm like, wow, if I would have gave up on episode 7,
Hmm.
none of this will be possible.
Right.
Right.
It was nervous as hell starting doing this podcast, and I'm like, I was nervous. I started with no headset, no microphone, just my laptop. And I've learned throughout time as the years went on how to update my equipment and all that. So, and now I have this new look. And it's like, don't give up. It will,
Mhm.
it doesn't take it doesn't get perfect on the exact same day.
Yep.
It
Mhm.
takes time with the hard work you put into it to make it as successful as it is. And
100.
I thank Lillian Garcia for all the amazing advice. And I thank Tyler for his advice. And together, when Tyler and I did this podcast, I teach Tyler the in and outs of doing a podcast. And now he's doing all these podcasts he's doing.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I
Man.
gave him the courage to, hey, it's gonna be just fine.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring to see anybody that's doing something online, especially because there are so many eyes that we don't realize at any given time could be watching or thinking that they have some type of an idea about us. That's where that reminder is so important, I think, is to just be more kind, be more quick to feel good instead of just keeping that snowball effect of negativity going, because
Right.
Mhm.
at that seventh episode, that's kind of what it feels like. I mean, in comparison, I couldn't say I know exactly what it feels like when you're like, oh, I got to give up. But I've had moments with technology where the phone or the laptop would quit working and I would have a
Uh
lot.
huh.
6 years of music getting lost that's a lot of music. Like
Yeah.
that's
Right.
hundreds of songs. And it's happened to me now twice. So in that time happening, it's like, I don't know if you feel the same, but it's like there's just this fire. You just have this feeling that you're like, I can't give up. I can't give up on my,
Right.
like, even if people give up on me, I can't give up on myself, you know?
Absolutely. 100%.
So another important one is that if you guys are, let's say, episode, we'll just say it. I don't want to put any expectation on it, but we say at episode 150, starting with Ashley, where do you see yourself in the 150th episode?
Oh, I have no idea. That's a good one. Hopefully set up a little bit better than what I am now, and have more experience with Waylon and everything. Um, and just living and learning and going from there. So,
Absolutely. That's a great answer. And I really think that especially just the quality of your microphone is very clear, which is very important for everybody listening. So whether you realize it or not, the tools you have are definitely enough. And you are definitely enough. And I believe that with the teammate that you have, the companion and the creator in this creative world, I definitely believe Waylon is somebody that is an exceptional partner for anybody doing a podcast. So I just got to say, as far as you guys, I know even if you've taken a break and had to go off, and just the ability to communicate is really amazing, to be able to see you guys working through differences and,
Mm-hmm.
emotions at different times and different feelings. So I got to say, like, I applaud, because like you guys, like that takes a lot, man. Like,
Thank
I
you.
would
Thank you.
But
be able to, I
yeah,
mean, wouldn't,
Mhm.
but I think it's amazing.
yeah. Now I'm still thinking about the 100th episode and how it's gonna be. So to think about the 150 episode, I don't know. I mean, I would love to be more into more actors and big
Yeah.
names if I get the opportunity to ever interview someone much higher than Lillian Garcia,
Yeah.
because she's a famous WWE ring announcer,
Yeah.
and it was an honor to have her as my 50th guest.
Yeah.
So if I ever get to 150, hopefully by that time, I will maybe be in a studio
Yeah.
and have people
Amazing.
come face to face with me
Yeah.
instead of coming on webcam face to face that way. So if I can have a studio or have like a huge name, maybe someone big, or even if it's someone I went to school with or worked with, or maybe you can be the
I'd
150
be honored.
guest.
I would be honored if I could do it.
But
50. Wow. To see where we would both be at 150.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
yeah, but
'Cause
yeah, so
we're
to
almost,
imagine that, I don't know where this podcast will be. It's too far out, and it's like you don't know what to expect on 150
yeah.
until that
Yeah.
day comes. Kind
Yeah.
of like Lily and Garcia. I'm not gonna get into details of what we discussed, but
Yeah.
she said, "Don't go so ahead of yourself thinking about the 100 episode because you don't know what the 100 episode is gonna bring to your podcast with all the people you have on your show." So that's a good advice that Lillian gave me.
That is.
So yes, I'm looking forward to get to the 100th episode. We are 73 of 100, so we're kind of getting there.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna overdo it in my head,
Yeah.
trying to get to
But
that point and then have mishap happens along the way.
it's more of, in my mind, to think of like the excitement that brings. Like, that's
Hmm.
the cool thing, because I think every single episode is a very important, it has such an important key role in
Yeah,
building behind that. It takes one straw to break the camel's back, but how many straws are on top of that camel to get to
yeah,
that point? And from that creative standpoint, I think that's a great thing to be reminded, and bring it into the full perspective of, like, every single one of these is its own incredible conversation. And somebody that is looking for kind of information about one person or another, like, who knows what any of us will be doing at the 150th episode. You know,
right,
it could be something as crazy as, like, you could find a golden ticket. Like, who knows? Like, Ashley might be at work or something like that, and she walking, and the next thing you know, there's just like this random. It could be the most random thing, dude. It could be, imagine like $1 million or $1 billion
right,
scratch off ticket, and she's just right there. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like anything that I would never. We each think of money differently, but I think it's so cool that even that long, to think, even just being that long, think of all the things that you've been able to overcome without money, that have gotten
right,
you conversations that are worth more than money, when it really boils down to the value you've received from the knowledge that has taught you how to see things in that different scope. Because, like, with Lillian saying, don't put so much ahead of yourself. Do it one step at a time. That's amazing, because you're right. If you would have quit at the seventh, who knows what the 70, who knows what who the second or the 77th would have ever, whatever this will look.
right.
But as long as I think, as I know, as long as you guys are creating, as long as this podcast is alive and thriving. And as long as you're making it, it will continue to be alive. And there are so many ways for us to get the word out online. And I don't know about you, but I'm studying it every day, learning different methods to
Yeah.
gain, like, exposure and get it to the right markets, get it to the right platform where people can see it, because these things have a lot of value. And the only difference between a live stream and what we're doing now is that there's not people that are asking other questions that might be beneficial to them in their specific way of life. But what you talk about on the show with overcoming bullying, overcoming anxiety, these are things that are so important
Yeah.
in our individual life, as well as what's important in society all the time. That
Absolutely.
that's where this podcast lives. That's where this podcast thrives. Is by design. You've already had in mind what it's meant to be, and nobody made that for you. And that's important to remind yourself, is that nobody had to walk a mile in your shoes, but they're going to try, and they're going to say all these things to get you to quit walking a mile in yours, because they know you're walking a lot more miles because you're putting in that time and effort.
Yep. Absolutely. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, keep the pressure up. When you post, keep yourself inspired and motivated, because that's the instant energy we gain when we tell ourselves, today we're going to do some promo. You don't got to do it every yourself up, please. Either of any of us, Ashley, don't do that to yourself either. You're worth
Absolutely.
a good mindset. You're worth having a healthy mentality. That should be for free for every one of us to have,
Yep. 100%. 100%.
If you'd ever have me on again from here till then, I would be honored. So, and I would gladly be using my new computer whenever it arrives. But I quit making posts or notifying the world I'm getting new things or what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because it like, again, it brings like a different kind of attention.
Right.
Then everybody's like, oh, they're getting this and they're getting that. It's this thing that goes with monitoring spirits. It's like people that watch, they see you post every time, but they don't ever comment. They don't ever engage with it. They just scroll. They scroll and scowl like, they're doing something again. Know that if I get the chance to see anything that's coming from the podcast on my feed, like, I'm going to engage with it, because not only now, but whenever I see it, it has a meaning to me, because the messages in these conversations are very impactful, man. These do make a difference. So
absolutely 100% great advice though.
yeah, keep the creative side happening, even if it's not the best thing you've put out. Not every painter even has success until after they pass away. Sometimes they don't even realize until after they pass away. So what we're creating on YouTube, it says somewhere in their policy, it used to anyways, when you monetize your channel, even after you pass away, for 70 years, your channel is still monetized. Like, that's an entire, almost like an entire life after death. That account can still.
Absolutely 100%.
And that's crazy. Like, money comes and money goes, but content's forever.
Yep, for sure.
So what do you think about the haircut? It's pretty wild, huh?
Yeah, it looks awesome. You did a good job with it.
I just it's been for almost 2 years since I cut my hair last time.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and I don't do it. The last time I cut it was right maybe a month or two after my grandmother passed away, but that's the cut it. So I had my daughter, then I was like, you know what? Like, because my son was crying last night and I didn't want him to keep being upset, I just started cutting my hair. He was laughing so hard.
Right.
It looked hilarious.
Cut us.
I like cut the
Yeah.
and let the sides hang down. So he was like
Mm-hmm.
so hard. So funny.
One last thing I would like to ask you.
Yeah.
If there was one message that you would like to say to someone out there watching this podcast about how important their life is and how they have a purpose in this life, what advice would you give them to let them see that, hey, your life is truly important?
I think the fact that we're all here right now, no matter what's going on in our regular lives, there's something that brought us together in this instant that we have the choice of what that looks like. The odds may be stacked up against us. The odds may be not in your favor. Things might be hard. Times might be bleak. We may have a lot of problems as a society. We may have a lot of problems as a family or with our companions or our communities. And when we stop looking at them in any other frame other than they're doing what they can do to live their life and protect who they love, that's what is most important, is that we protect what we love. Anybody that is struggling, that's hurt, that doesn't know where to go, that doesn't know what to think or how to feel, you deserve to know and think and feel love. Over every other emotion, you deserve to be respected. You deserve for people to be, if they can't be kind, for them to at least be respectful to you. And to not hold any animosity in your own energy, in your own feeling, because someone else is trying to get you out of your energy, does not mean that you have to give up or surrender your good vibe. So when you feel that there's a lot of unknowns, things causing anxiety, things that are causing personal anguish that make you feel miserable, remind yourself you can always give it to God. You can always change your situation with something as simple as a moment of giving some gratitude, even a moment in complete silence. Ask God to fill that silence with sound that helps you. Ask God to fill those voids with things that nourish you, that give you vitality, that create conscious awareness that you deserve to belong. You deserve to exist with love entirely. There should not ever be a lack or anything stopping you, creating an imbalance for you to love yourself. If it's hard to see it, if it isn't easy, ask God to make it easy. Ask God to help you see it. And if it's something that's that simple, can change anything, it's just asking God. It's just an instant. No matter what religion, it is always okay to go to God. It's always okay to ask God. And it's always okay to hear his answer differently than other people might hear it, because God speaks to each one of us individually. Something I might learn may not be ready for another person to learn yet. But there might be something that they're learning that I'm not ready to learn yet. So it's having respect for every man and every woman that we meet. It's being willing and open to communicate so that we can comprehend each other. And it's also willing to remind ourselves that if we're separated and we're isolated, that we can still always have a conversation with God. There's no time limits. There's no restrictions. Nothing about God is off limits to humans. We are created by God for an eternity of that life that we get to exist. And whatever we create, if we've come to life, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be exchanged. It can only be created or exchanged. Once it's out there, it can't get taken back. So if anybody has ever even been a bully, because We know what it's like to have those kind of people a part of these streams. We've all streamed and we've all had bullies come into our streams. Even if you feel like you're the bully or someone else is the bully, you don't have to keep being a bully. You don't have to keep feeling like the bad guy. You don't have to keep that cycle perpetuating anymore, because there are people like us, like here, Waylon and Ashley and myself, that have dealt with it from that spectrum of what it looks like to get bullied. But we have bullied ourselves to thinking things that we have had to stop telling ourselves so we could get healthy too. Because we've all had personal struggles. Every person that's ever had a personal struggle has bullied their psychology to believing that they weren't as good as something or that they didn't have as much as another person. But that is a deception. That is not God. That is an illusion. That separates us, not physically or spiritually. It's a emotional separation. We're always connected to God, always. Whether we feel him, whether we think he's there or not, he's always there. And we are always allowed to talk to him. So if I can share any little tidbit, anything important, no matter how you're feeling or what you're going through, even if you don't feel comfortable confiding in other people, there is nothing wrong to be up at 3 a.m. working on a project and to just get down on your knees and to look up with your hands up to the sky and your chin up to the sky and just start asking God. And if you have a handicap and you can't get on your knees, there's nothing wrong with acting like God is sitting right at the table with you, in your car with you. You're driving somewhere alone. God is your protection. He is always going to be your protection. And the more we acknowledge him, the more that protection covers our entire body. And then it starts covering those around us. Then it starts covering the rest of the world. So that's the thing, is that bullies are going to burn out because they're going to run out of material, because everybody's heard the same 20 lines that the bullies perpetuate. It's the person that decides to quit perpetuating that changes the entire dynamic of the way the entire world works, because now they're one person in the world that doesn't follow negativity. They follow the truth. Follow your truth, no matter who likes it, no matter who respects you. Remember, we might both know the truth, but the real truth lays right in the middle of the both of us, for both of us to have, all three of us to have. We all come together when we come together in peace. And when we talk about God, we do create a church. We do create a foundation that our faith can stand upon when we stand together and we fill up that cup together. So when we walk away and we're spending time away from each other, I'm going to think about this conversation. I'm going to think about everybody here. I'm going to think about Ashley. I'm going to think about Wade. Even when I'm sitting there feeding my kids, I'm going to be thinking about you guys and thinking about these things that have affected me and these questions that you've asked me. So don't think that you don't matter, whether you're inviting me on the show to talk about me or whether I'm inviting you on to something that I create so that I can help you guys and do different things, or we can talk about the things that are important to you, because everybody's important in God's eyes. There's not one single person who God has ever said that didn't matter to him. So remember you're important. God loves you, and you can always go to him for everything.
Amen. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
At this time, can you plug your social media just in case someone wants to find you on social media?
Absolutely. And I will definitely make sure that everybody knows what I have. I create things and then I share the updates instead of telling everybody when I'm going to update. So if you guys are interested in inquiring on any level that has to deal with music, you can always reach out to my Ace Hyer Inquire at gmail.com. And anybody that wants to collaborate with me on music, anyone interested in instrumentals, Waylon and I, obviously, if you've listened to the show this far, you know that I've made the music in the show. I'm also willing to do different things for many different creators. Also website design. So all of those, again, can be linked with the Ace Hyer Inquire email. If you guys are interested in my music, I have my YouTube channel. That's Ace Hyer 4441. If you want to listen to my music, you can check out my Ace Hyer channel. If you're interested in learning about plants and forestry and mushroom identification, as well as building shelters and learning about bushcraft, I also have a bushcrafting channel that is called Ace's Nature Space. Anybody that is looking to learn more about building social media platforms, feel free to reach out. You can search me either by Austin Siar on Facebook, or you can find my group on Facebook. That's Ace Hyer at Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Ace_Hyer. And again, all the links for all of these will be below. And if you want to catch the positivity train and join the positive squad along with Waylon and Ashley and myself, you guys are more than free to join the conversations on TikTok that we have as well. So check out the Ace Hyer TikTok channel below. And I look forward to possibly even being back on another show. I would love to catch up with you guys at the 150. I look forward to it. Either way, no matter what. To episode 73, I would have to say cheers, my friends, for inviting me on. I'm having some tea right now, so it's very good. This is not hibiscus. This is echinacea tea. So
Nice, awesome. It was a pleasure to have you on as the 73rd episode.
I'm honored.
Everyone, thank you for everything standing strong. Visit the official website at standingstrongpodcast.com and check out every episode at www.youtube.com/Waylon Myers, as everything standing strong is on that platform. Wow, this was an inspiring episode, Austin.
Yes.
Ashley, before we end this podcast, is there anything you would like to say to Austin for being our 73rd guest?
Thank you very much for joining us and sharing all your inspirational thoughts, questions, and everything. Yeah, it was awesome.
Absolutely.
It was very inspiring.
So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity again. Thank you to Tyler again for also doing these videos with you guys. I know that he's not in the show tonight. However, I have seen him on previous shows. I have seen him when he's come in, when Ashley took some time. So thank you for being a part of the show. Steve, thank you as well for getting on and doing all of these different interviews and also unveilings for a lot of these people that have been, you know, very inspiring here, that have been a part of this show far beyond just my own ability to be here. I'm so grateful to be able to have the opportunity to be included in this podcast. It is a beautiful opportunity. And I know there's going to be many more inspiring, incredible people that want to come here and use this place the same way to learn, to share, and to always explore faith, and to know that we're all connected in this world in such a beautiful way when we collaborate together. So again, guys, seriously, thank you for the opportunity to collab. Thank you for the opportunity to be involved in the show in the background with the music, because I am also going to be getting a new Mac and upgrading my system, which is going to help me upgrade and evolve with the music. And I look forward to also being able to add some different sounds, maybe some different stuff. We get some hand claps and things and these random, you know,
Yeah.
like dog barking or something like that. Basically like a stream deck. I think that would be so.
Right.
I see a very optimistic future coming for the Standing Strong podcast, as well as for Ace Hyer, as well as for all of us as individuals. And I'm thankful for the opportunity again, guys. So much love for everything that you do. Thank you for doing the show. Thank you for bringing me on, and many, many, many more successful podcasts to come. I cannot wait.
Thank you. We appreciate that so much. All right, everyone. Until the 74th episode of Standing Strong, we will see you all next time.
Thank you for watching the Standing Strong podcast with Waylon and Ashley. And now, a great shout out for our all-star team behind the scenes. Standing Strong's opening and commercial commentator, Tyler Peters. And our very own guest introducer, Steve Fox. And last but not least, our musical composer, Austin Siar, aka Ace Hyer of Daydreamers Entertainment. This message has been brought to you by Standing Strong with Waylon and Ashley. Stand strong and spread positivity wherever you go.